Good day, everyone. For today's topic, my colleagues and I will be discussing natural language and formal terminology. By the end of this discussion, we hope to achieve the following: define the field of natural language processing, identify the key concepts of natural language processing, determine the different processes or methods involved, and last but not the least, discuss its application in modern fields. With that covered, let us now start the lecture. So, what is natural language processing or NLP? Natural language processing refers to a specific branch of computer science that focuses on giving computers the ability to understand and interpret human language. NLP develops methods and algorithms to allow a computer to take human language as expressed in text or as spoken and attempts to convert it into equivalent computer data and to be used in a variety of applications, including record coding. Now, computer software is capable of recognizing different facets of human language, such as grammar, metaphors, idioms, and etc. Though NLP originates from computer science, it also plays a role in other fields and settings, including healthcare.
NLP seeks to match the content of clinical text with concepts and terms. The primary use of clinical terminologies and their associated conceptual ontologies is to provide a clinical reference of the meaning of words. The assignment of one or more labels to a clinical text for epidemiological purposes, such as tracking mortality rates, has historically been a human task that is supported by a software which aids a human coder to find the correct set of codes. Other reasons to interpret meanings of clinical records are: 1. Support decision making, 2nd, public health surveillance, and lastly, data mining to support scientific discovery. So this is very useful, especially if you find yourself dealing with a large amount of records. So this will save you time as the computational approach automates the labeling task to only real options. Named entity recognition is the process of associating words or phrases with concepts. So, named entity recognition is a process of assigning predefined labels to a text. These labels come from a terminology or dictionary, or they may be names of individuals, organizations, or places. The specifics of the named entity recognition is rooted in the nature of language. So the process of named entity recognition can take place in a number of steps. Each step prepares or interprets a text in some way and feeds it to the next stage of text processing. So these are the process. First is the individual words, and then examining structural features of a text, and then use models of clinical knowledge to further interpret text, only if needed.
World-level text processing analyzes individual words independent of linguistic structure or meaning. The simplest way to analyze text is to see it as an unrelated collection or bag of words. Standard steps to text interpretation. First is, the text is stripped of text elements that are not of interest to the current task. This may include punctuation marks, numbers, and common stop words such as the and a. The selection of stop words is important because if you remove the word a, it may cause errors later on. This is because of other concepts with the letter A, as sometimes capitalizations are removed. For example, hepatitis A or vitamin A. Next, tokenization or morphological analysis. Next takes a bag of words and converts them all into their lemma or canonical form. A canonical form means it is one which provides the simplest representation of the object and allows it to be identified in a unique way. The lemma is needed because there may be a number of related ways of expressing the same concept, and the terminology may not state them all. Stemming converts different variants of words into their common stem by using simpler rules. Suffixes such as is, al, and Asian can be stripped away to a common stem. An example of this would be the words programming, programmer, and programs. They can all be reduced down to a common word stem, program. Lemmatization. It's a more comprehensive approach than stemming because it uses a more complex method that converts related words into a lemma. For instance, stemming the word caring would return into car. On the other hand, lemmatizing the word caring would return into care. The most common approach of them all is using the method regular expression. Regular expression describes in logical form the rules that dictate how a string of symbols can be legally decomposed into parts. Once a bag of words has been reduced into lemmas, it is possible to map the lemmas onto terminology. Whenever concepts are uniquely determined by a single word, if more than one mapping is possible, proceed to analyze the text further. A simple alternative is to apply statistical weights to words based on one frequency of their appearance in similar texts. Simple bag of words methods are very simple and they are mostly used.
Analysis of syntactic structures can provide additional clues to the meaning of a text. Processing at the single word level is frequently insufficient to completely comprehend the topics expressed in a book. Several specific text comprehension issues cannot be easily remedied at the word level, including the following. First is reference resolution. Reference resolution entails determining if separate mentions of a concept in a text all refer to the same idea or are independent objects or events. Second is word sense disambiguation. Word sense disambiguation is ambiguity of meaning at the word level that is inherent in natural language and requires further information to resolve. A ventricle, for example, might refer to a variety of anatomical ideas. Third is biological entities. Recognizing named things for biomedical ideas such as gene names remain a difficulty. The string "cat", for example, can be used to name genes in humans as well as other animals such as the mouse and the fly. And lastly is negation. Determining whether a text indicates the idea or its negation is difficult, and the use of the word "not" does not necessarily help. For example, "there is little hope that it is not cancer" entails a double denial that best maps to cancer.
The meaning of words can be hard to determine based on structure and grammar alone. In these cases, humans often rely on their knowledge of the domain in the world to guess the meaning of a text. Classification systems can help by providing a conceptual model or ontology of the domain. A multi-HL classification system can model ontology through its different axes, such as an axis of anatomical structure and relationships. This axis can show how different terms can come together to make anatomical sense. Many domains use specific ontologies to different or describe concepts and their relationships. By using classification systems and ontologies, we can better understand the meaning of a text. Like us, using specific grammar to help understand which POS different words occupy in a phrase or sentence. We can use an ontology to assist the resolution of a likeliness of the semantic role different words play. Hence, in anatomical hierarchy, list of legal modifiers of anatomical structure names and could find that left is a legal modifier that shows the laterality of a structure. For example, the phrase "he left home" would clearly not mean, of course, the hierarchy because home is not a human anatomical structure. However, on the other hand, an analogy like the left kidney would definitely would.
Text processing and natural language understanding methods have broad application. In information retrieval, natural language processing technologies such as tokenization and lemmatization are commonly used to improve keyword searches. When a user enters, let's say, the word heart into a search engine, it seems natural that related words like carjack are also searched for, and a smart search engine does query expansion to include all the obvious synonyms and lexical variants connected with the keywords a user has provided. In text mining, when clinical text data is formed, it may be possible to reveal patterns and relationships that were previously unknown. For example, adverse event reports or medical records can be searched to uncover unreported drug interactions. Sometimes, the literature on a certain topic is so enormous and changing so quickly that it is impossible to keep track of everything that is being documented by hand. In such circumstances, text mining and natural language processing methods can assist in synthesizing the meanings contained in a set of texts. In text summarization, there are a number of tasks for which the contents of multiple texts need to be understood and their contents compressed in some way into a summary. Clinical letters, handover reports, and discharge summaries are all specific summaries of a patient's current state that necessitate some domain and patient knowledge. A systematic review which summarizes the material of a larger number of relevant clinical trials and into a synthesis of the evidence base is another typical summarizing activity. Text extracts, in which the summarizer merely identifies relevant words and sentences and groups them together, and text abstracts, which are a re-expression of information into a real summary, are two automated ways for text summarizing. In text generation, concepts and terms are now translated into a set of sentences understandable to humans. Different sorts of documents could be represented by templates which are instantiated by the data to be reported and articulated in sentence form, as well as canned text when standard text elements are required. Lastly, in question answering, it points out the precision of a question which gives out the expected direct answer. This utilizes the text summarization and generation methods to understand the exact meaning of the question asked and then possibly search numerous source texts or a knowledge base for the solution.
So, now to the conclusion, terminological systems remain for now the primary tool for interpreting clinical language for a wide variety of administrative and clinical tasks. Modern statistical approaches to modeling and interpreting clinical texts are able to use such terminological resources to assist in their tasks. It is also possible, however, to build large scale statistical models of language independently of human maintained terminologies. So, before we finish, let's go over what we just discussed. So, first, the process of coding introduces systematic biases and is associated with errors. Second, terms are subjective, probabilistic, context dependent, purposive, and they evolve over time. Third, two fundamental and related obstacles to revising a universal terminological system. The first is the model construction problem. Terminologies are just models of the world, and the world is always richer and more complex than any model. The second is the symbol grounding problem. So the fourth one is introducing changes into a mature terminological system becomes increasingly expensive over time, and as consequence, maintaining a terminological system will become increasingly expensive over time. Fifth one, compositional terminological systems are intended to be easier and less expensive to maintain and update than enumerative systems. Sixth, labeling clinical text with concepts requires natural language methods, which approach a text at multiple levels, starting with individual words, then looking at text structures, and finally interpreting text against external knowledge, such as ontology. So, seventh, natural language methods have widespread application in health by assisting with search engine design, text mining, and text summarization and generation, and as well as question answering. And that concludes our lecture. So, thank you for listening, and we hope you learned something today.